He was one of the most respected voices in daytime television. Judge Joe Brown, the second highest paid TV personality behind Judge Judy, dispensing justice and wisdom to millions of Americans for 15 years. But in 2024 and 2025, the 77-year-old former judge has become one of the most controversial figures in Black America. He's called Vice President Kamala Harris a HE. He's said women get dragged into abandoned apartments and raped when they try to lead. He's feuded with Judge Mathis, insulting his wife with the same degrading language. And he's criticized churches, politicians, and anyone who disagrees with him using inflammatory rhetoric that shocked even his most loyal fans. Judge Mathis says Brown might be suffering from dementia. Critics say he's always been this way, just now saying the quiet part loud. Today, we're breaking down the rise and fall of Judge Joe Brown, examining his controversial statements, and asking the question, what happened to the man America once trusted? Joseph Blakeney Brown Jr. was born on July 5, 1947, in Washington, D.C. He grew up in South Central Los Angeles in what he described as one of the toughest neighborhoods in the city. But Brown came from a remarkable family of pioneers and activists. His great-grandfather brought the Church of God in Christ to Kansas City in 1896. His grandfather worked as a physician alongside Alex Haley's grandfather in Jackson, Tennessee. His family history is marked by acts of defiance against racism and injustice that shaped Brown's worldview. Brown earned a bachelor's degree in political science from UCLA in 1969, then went on to receive his Juris Doctor from UCLA School of Law in 1973. After graduating, he moved to Memphis, Tennessee to work as an attorney for the Legal Services Corporation, providing legal aid to low-income clients. He later worked for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, fighting discrimination cases. By 1978, Brown became the first African-American prosecutor in Memphis. He later directed the Memphis Public Defender's Office before opening his own law practice. In 1990, he was elected as a judge on the State Criminal Court of Shelby County, Tennessee. While on the bench, Brown became known for his sometimes unusual sentences. He once ordered a child molester to confess to his church congregation. He sentenced a drug trafficker to apologize in a newspaper letter. His creative approach to justice made him a local celebrity. But it was Brown's role in the James Earl Ray case that thrust him into the national spotlight. Ray, the convicted assassin of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., filed his last appeal while Brown was presiding over the case. Brown was eventually removed from the reopened investigation due to alleged bias, but the media attention had already made him famous. In 1998, that fame translated into a television career. Judge Joe Brown premiered on September 14, 1998, and became an instant hit. The show ran for 15 seasons, making Brown the longest-serving African-American television arbitrator at the time. He was known for his no-nonsense approach, his deep voice, and his willingness to lecture defendants about personal responsibility. At the height of his career, Brown was the second highest-paid daytime television personality, earning millions annually. For 15 years, Judge Joe Brown was a household name. He was respected, admired, and trusted, but behind the scenes, cracks were forming. The beginning of the end came in 2013. After 15 years on the air, Judge Joe Brown was canceled. Brown was 66 years old, and suddenly, the show that had defined his life was gone. He tried to negotiate for more money, but the network refused. The cancellation was abrupt, and Brown was bitter about it. In 2014, Brown decided to run for Shelby County District Attorney in Tennessee. It was a chance to return to his roots, to reclaim the power and respect he had lost when his show ended. But the campaign was a disaster. Brown made headlines for all the wrong reasons, including questioning his opponent's sexual orientation, a move that many saw as homophobic and desperate. Then came the moment that would define his post-television career. In March 2014, while representing a client in juvenile court, Brown got into a heated argument with Magistrate Harold Horn. Brown questioned the judge's authority, interrupted proceedings, and refused to follow courtroom protocol. Judge Horn held Brown in contempt of court and sentenced him to 5 days in jail. Brown was handcuffed and taken into custody. The man who had presided over a courtroom for 15 years, who had dispensed justice to thousands of defendants, was now sitting in a jail cell himself. He served his time, and when he was released, he told ABC News that the incident wasn't even heated and rated it just a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. But the damage was done. Brown's reputation had taken a massive hit. He lost the district attorney race, he never got another television show. And over the next decade, Brown became increasingly bitter, angry, and willing to say things that shocked even his supporters. In July 2024, just months before the presidential election, Judge Joe Brown appeared at a political event and delivered one of the most shocking rants of his career. The target? Vice President Kamala Harris, who was running for president after Joe Biden dropped out of the race. "I'm gonna hurt somebody's feelings, but we got a witch running for president," Brown began. "That woman is the worst kind of sleaze you can ever think of." He then claimed that his extensive legal experience in Memphis, where he dealt with pimps and he's over 40 years ago, gave him the ability to recognize manipulative behavior. "I know a he when I see one," Brown said. "And when I see a HE, I know she's got a pimp." The comments were immediately condemned. Social media erupted with outrage. Writer and activist Sophia Nelson tweeted, "I was on my YouTube channel and saw that ignorant Judge Joe Brown speaking nasty things about our VP. I know she's strong and knows this kind of talk is coming. However, when it comes from a black man calling her, no respect for him." Another observer wrote, "I'm amazed at how some black men like Joe Brown, who claim to be all for black people, yet attack Kamala Harris the same way Trump does, yet are quiet as church mice when it comes to criticizing Trump and Project 2025. It's very weird to me." Brown also mocked Harris for a teleprompter mistake she made during a speech in Flint, Michigan, sarcastically imitating her speech patterns. He continued to insist that Harris was part of a larger scheme, hinting at conspiracy theories without providing any evidence. The backlash was fierce, but Brown didn't back down. In fact, he doubled down. When confronted about his language, he defended it, saying he was just telling the truth that others were too afraid to say, but the Kamala Harris rant wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern that had been developing for years. The Kamala Harris controversy was shocking, but it wasn't the first time Judge Joe Brown had made headlines for degrading women. In 2023, during a Memphis mayoral candidate forum, Brown was asked a question about leadership. His response stunned the audience. "Sorry, but some things men do real well," Brown said. "I don't want to get crude about it, but some places you need to go exercise leadership. Some of the good ladies in here would get drugged into an abandoned apartment and raped." The comment elicited gasps and confusion from the audience. Brown was essentially arguing that women are too weak and vulnerable to lead because they might get raped. It was offensive, misogynistic, and completely inappropriate. But Brown didn't apologize. He seemed to believe he was just stating facts. Then came the feud with Judge Greg Mathis. In October 2025, Brown got into a public dispute with Mathis, another African-American TV judge who has been on the air since 1999. During an interview, Brown made degrading comments about Mathis's wife, using the same language he had used to describe Kamala Harris. Mathis responded on the Art of Dialogue podcast, saying he had warned Brown to stop disrespecting his wife. Something to the effect of, "Well, I don't know if his wife is a HEE or not. If she takes money, or if she said that, then she might be," Mathis recounted Brown saying. "Who talks like that and not have any fear? I would have fear of saying that, and as I just told you, I'm fearless. So I think something's wrong. The man is near 80, which is about the time dementia sets in if you're going to get it." Mathis went on to speculate that Brown might be suffering from cognitive decline, given his age and increasingly erratic behavior. If you think about it long enough, folks in that age group, 80 or more, those that talk crazy, you hear them talk crazy all the time, Mathis said. But is it dementia? Or has Brown always been this way, just more careful about saying it publicly when he had a television show to protect? Looking back at his career, there are signs that Brown's views on women, race, and authority have always been problematic. In 2019, he made controversial comments about Harriet Tubman. In 2014, he questioned his political opponent's sexual orientation, and throughout his television career, he was known for being tough on defendants, especially young black men, often lecturing them about personal responsibility in ways that some critics saw as respectability politics. While there's no specific evidence that Judge Joe Brown called a particular pastor a pulpit pimp, the term itself has been used for years to describe preachers who exploit their congregations for financial gain. And Brown, given his family's deep roots in the Church of God in Christ, has occasionally weighed in on church issues. Brown's great-grandfather brought Kojic to Kansas City in 1896, and Brown has spoken about growing up in the church. He's also referenced his family's religious history when discussing issues of morality and leadership. While on the bench, Brown once sentenced a child molester to confess to his church congregation, showing that he believed the church had a role to play in accountability and justice. But in recent years, as Brown has become more outspoken and controversial, he's also criticized modern churches and preachers who, in his view, have strayed from their mission. The term pulpit pimp refers to pastors who use the gospel to manipulate congregants into giving money, often living lavish lifestyles while their members struggle financially. It's a critique that has been leveled at prosperity gospel preachers like Creflo Dollar, T.D. Jakes, and others. Brown's use of the term pimp in his Kamala Harris rant shows that he's comfortable with that language. "I know a he when I see one, and when I see a he, I know she's got a pimp," Brown said, suggesting that he sees the world through a lens of exploitation and manipulation. It's not a stretch to imagine Brown using similar language to describe pastors he believes are exploiting their congregations. But without specific evidence of Brown calling out a particular pastor, we can only speculate. What's clear is that Brown has become increasingly willing to use inflammatory, degrading language to make his points, regardless of who he's talking about. So what happened to Judge Joe Brown? How did a respected TV judge become one of the most controversial voices in Black America? There are a few theories. Theory 1. Bitterness over his show's cancellation. Brown was making millions of dollars a year when Judge Joe Brown ended in 2013. He tried to negotiate for more money, but the network refused. Losing that platform, that income, and that respect may have left Brown feeling betrayed and angry. His subsequent run for district attorney, his contempt of court charge, and his increasingly erratic behavior suggest a man who feels he's been wronged and is lashing out. Theory 2, he's always been this way. Some critics argue that Brown hasn't changed at all. He's always held these views about women, authority, and leadership. The difference is that when he had a television show, he had to be more careful about what he said publicly. Now that he has nothing to lose, he's saying the quiet part, loud. Theory 3, cognitive decline. Judge Mathis suggested that Brown, at 77 years old, might be suffering from dementia or other age-related cognitive issues. Mathis pointed out that people in their late 70s and 80s sometimes talk crazy as their mental faculties decline. Brown's increasingly outrageous statements, his willingness to burn bridges, and his lack of self-awareness could be signs of something more serious than just bitterness. Theory 4, attention and relevance. Without a television show, Brown has struggled to stay relevant. Making controversial, shocking statements gets him attention, gets him interviews, and keeps his name in the headlines. It's possible that Brown has realized that outrage is profitable in the age of social media, and he's leaning into it. The truth is probably a combination of all four. Brown is bitter about losing his show. He's always had problematic views, but was more careful about expressing them. He may be experiencing cognitive decline, and he's definitely discovered that controversy keeps him in the spotlight. Judge Joe Brown was once one of the most respected African-American figures in daytime television. For 15 years, he was a voice of authority, wisdom, and justice. Millions of Americans tuned in to watch him dispense common sense and hold people accountable. But in 2025, at 77 years old, Brown has become a cautionary tale. His shocking comments about Kamala Harris, his degrading language toward women, his feuds with fellow judges, and his increasingly erratic behavior have destroyed his legacy. Whether it's bitterness, cognitive decline, or simply a willingness to say what he's always believed, Judge Joe Brown is no longer the man America once admired. His story is a reminder that reputation is fragile, that words have consequences, and that how we treat others, especially women and marginalized communities, matters. Brown's family legacy was built on activism, defiance against injustice, and service to the community. But his personal legacy has become one of controversy, degradation, and division. At 77, Judge Joe Brown still has time to change course. He could apologize, seek help if he's struggling, and work to rebuild the respect he once commanded. But based on his recent behavior, that seems unlikely. Instead, Brown seems determined to keep saying the controversial things that get him attention, even if it means burning every bridge he's ever built. The lesson? Protect your legacy. Watch your words, and remember that the respect you earn over a lifetime can be destroyed in a single moment. What do you think? Has Judge Joe Brown changed, or has he always been this way? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.